There is no one in here yet, but I'm just gonna go because I don't want there to be a whole lot of dead time for the people that get here later because that's what's been happening. People have been getting here later. It's really weird. The YouTube and its algorithm, I don't really know what it's doing recently, but it's not doing great. Like I'm not doing really well. And the algorithm isn't notifying anyone of anything. Doesn't matter what it is. It's just not. I don't know what they've changed it to, but it's really hard to like get any information out or any video out. And then by the time it does hit you, it's so long ago, it's past. So because of that, I'm just gonna go ahead because I don't know if anyone was notified, if it even popped up on someone's For You page, and I don't know how long it's gonna take for people to arrive. So I'm just gonna talk. Um, so I had picked up on a really interesting sort of energy that's sitting in the collective right now, and then which led to a bunch of downloads. And I kind of just wanted to go over it because I feel like it could be helpful. So essentially, what I'm picking up that's in the collective energy at the moment is this feeling of waiting, but not necessarily being aware that you don't actually have to do that anymore. So maybe about, I want to say 6 months or so ago, I made a video about like this download that I had received in which I could see people like driving onto a highway. And it looked like, regardless of what the car was, everyone sort of had packed up their belongings to leave. And part of that process was leaving a lot of old things behind, like leaving behind an old location, an old city, old people, an old job, old friendships, old relationships. It was like this complete sort of overhaul of life and what that would look like. Hi, you guys. Okay, so that's what happened. Because the minute I was sitting here in this room by myself, okay, I was sitting here by myself and I was like, I have no idea how long it's going to take YouTube to do whatever YouTube does in order to alert people that I'm in here. But hi. Okay, so now that there's a group in here, I don't know when you guys showed up, I'm going to briefly start over. So, picking up on some downloads, I want to go through that. And then I also want to go through how to get through what I'm picking up a lot of people are actually going through, right? So about 6 months ago, I made a video about downloads that I had received. And within that was people like packing up to move on, right? And so what I really saw was like this tiny car on an on-ramp to a highway, and people packed up what they could fit in this tiny car. And so the trunk was full, the back seats were full, even the passenger seat was full, and there was nobody in the car. Oh, does it? Thanks for that. I didn't know that, Jazzy. Thank you for telling me that. I didn't know. Hi, Claudia. But the car was just you, nobody else in this car, right? So even in the passenger seat, it looked like you fit whatever you could put in the passenger seat, and that was it. And like some people had, it was full of luggage. Some people packed their stuff in a trash bag and put it in the car. For some people, I saw like a parrot that really stood out to me. That someone had like a bird, and they were like, I'm not leaving my bird," and they put the bird in the car. But there was no people with you, right? And so, and you were leaving sort of the city that you were accustomed to. So whatever location, and you were leaving whatever was affiliated with that location. So people and places and things, right? So it could be a job, it could be a romantic relationship. A lot of people were leaving family and just going in their own way. And there was this energy for a really long time, these last 6 months, of people sort of preparing for change. But then feeling like, I don't know what I need to do. Like, I know I want change. I know it's supposed to be coming, but like, I don't know what my next steps are, but I'm trying not to get in the way. And I want to go with the flow, but like, God, this is taking really long. and like, it's just this feeling of people waiting. And then, or people going, okay, I'm going to do the work that I think I need to do. But then still waiting. And so what I'm picking up on now, and it just seems to be a collective energy, is that you no longer need to wait. The difference, though, between a previous situation and what it's going to look like for you now is that in your previous life, that's exactly what it was. It was a previous life. It was the old chapter. Whereas it's not just the new chapter, it's like the new book. So think about like how there's a Harry Potter series and there are volumes, whereas you're going into the next volume. So the previous story of your life, you wrote it, it's done. It's time to shut that book and everything that went with that story, that went with that narrative, including the people that were a part of that narrative. That book is already written, it's done. And where you are right now is opening like a fresh book, fresh pages. There's nothing on it, on any of the pages. And you're now writing a new book. You're now part of writing a new volume. And so it is a continuation of your previous story, but that story ended. It's almost like the epilogue, but something about this one is more exciting to read, right? And so, oh, good. I love that. Oh, is that what that means? Tabula rasa? Is that was gonna idiot? Rachel, you're gonna have to give me the phonetics because I don't know how to pronounce that. But it's a new book, right? It's just different. And it's not going to follow the same set of rules that you used to write your previous story, right? So the previous story was about what happened in order to now make you like this hero of your story. It's about many hardship that you may have had, acts of adversity that you may have overcome, different challenges, problems, things that you've gone through that built you up into the character that you became. Now, the interesting part is that a lot of people don't realize that you are now in the phase in which you've already become that character. So there was this period of waiting where like people are like waiting to become that character. Like, oh, I know I got some more work to do. Let me work on this. Let me heal this. Let me blah, blah, blah. There was always something else to do. Whereas what you don't realize now is that that character that you were becoming, you already became, right? There's always going to be a feeling that you have to do more or expand on more or improve on more because you're an eternal being. And so, like, the concept of more is something that you're always going to deal with because you are eternal. This is why universe expands because it wants more, it's eternal. There's not going to be a moment where you hit a certain place or like a level and then you're like, okay, I got it, I'm there. And so, a lot of people I've been sensing have been sort of like waiting for like a sign that they like made it to like wherever they were supposed to be in that hero story. But like you already became that. So the next step when it comes to getting the things that you wanted to have in terms of this change in your life is about you now making this active choice to then just go pursue it. And the previous story, or like in the previous book, you were operating with a different set of rules, which means you were playing by like societal standards, which is society gives me permission to do things. And that includes society gives me permission to succeed. Society gives me permission to win. Society gives me permission to be. Society gives me my opportunity. Society gives me my money. And so this feeling of people waiting is coming from the old rules that people are used to playing with, which is fine. It's the rules that we all sort of are born in with, right? But as you're changing and as you're evolving and you're understanding that you are a metaphysical being, like I always say, the rules that you're going to use are going to be different. So now in this new book that you are now in, you are now playing by that set of rules. So you're no longer waiting, right? So like it's a clear game. The pages are clean. You now have an opportunity to write what you want to write, what that's going to look like, but they now follow your rules. And this is actually leading me into sort of I put bittersweet as the title because with that comes a lot of things. That comes accepting that you are now moving forward, not moving on, but moving forward. There are going to be a lot of situations in your life, as well as a lot of people in your life that are not going to be making that choice, who also are not aware of the fact that they can actually make that choice. There are going to be a lot of situations and a lot of people that are around you who have not finished the last volume of that book set. They don't even know that it's possible for them to have a new book. The reason why you've received the new book was because there was a piece somewhere in you that said, this life that I'm currently living is not it. It's not working for me. It's not it. It's not in alignment. It's not how I want to live my life. I have like all of these other dreams or goals, ambitions, or maybe you feel like you don't have anything big. You just feel like whatever that was not it, right? And you made a choice. Even if you're not consciously aware of the fact, your spirit made a choice that that's not it. And so you were given a new opportunity, which is this book of blank pages. And so the previous book was being written with you being under the influence of like old societal expectations, being under the influence of family, perhaps friends, right, who are also under societal expectations. And so, because of this influence, it's for some of you prevented the ability to allow you to fearlessly pursue things that society would consider to be huge, right? Whereas you going, but I really do want those things actually, is what is bringing in the new book. But because this new book is now with the new you, it has been sort of presented to the new you because the new you is moving with a different set of energy. You're moving with metaphysics. It means that the book now has to be written from a metaphysical perspective, right? So anything that you want to pursue, any goals you want to pursue need to be written with a metaphysical perspective. You can't write them with a societal sort of 3D perspective because it's not going to work in the way that you are going to want it to work. And so the bittersweet part is that now you are moving forward. And with that, there are things that you must leave behind, people that must be left behind. And they're going to be people that you love. It's going to be situations that you love. It could be a job that you love. And if it's not a job that you love, maybe you didn't love the job, or maybe you just love the people that you worked with. It's going to be situations that you're going to feel like you're grieving a little bit as you are letting it go. The hardest piece of this is going to be the friends and family aspect of it, because they cannot come. And so what a lot of people are going to be sort of battling with is that you feel down in your gut that there just wasn't an alignment that was there. But it's been this push pull about like, I love them. They mean a lot to me. If I cut them off, then I'm not going to have anybody. What am I going to do without them? And so there has been situations where you have had them around you longer than they probably should have been around you. And it's created conflict and issues, and it has sort of thrown you off your game. Or maybe you were actually actively pursuing a goal at one point in time, and then someone said something to you, someone that you love and cared about, but they said an opinion that sort of threw you off. This is what all of this is. And so as you're writing this new book, the bittersweet part is about leaving that behind, leaving them behind. It's going to feel like someone dropped you off at an airport, or maybe you drove and you're getting on the flight and you turn around as you look at the gate and the gate shuts behind you. It is a very clear delineation between what your life was and what your life is supposed to be. And for a lot of you, you're going to feel that sort of severing of sort of energetic tides, energetic cords, just sort of the energetic connection. And another thing that's going to make this difficult is for some of you, you're going to have situations or people that are like, you're going to feel this sort of energetic pull on you, or sort of like bucking against whatever it is that you're trying to do, because you have to understand that even though you feel like it's not like a conscious thing for some of you, what ended up happening was that you chose your freedom, your liberation, your happiness, your fulfillment, your satisfaction, which are things that we are not taught as a society to actively go and pursue. And so with this, there are going to be people that are going to be looking at you and thinking that you're crazy, or even voicing that you're crazy. And there's going to be a new challenge there in that for you, of learning how to choose your happiness and your satisfaction anyway. Now, it's easier said than done than to say, well, don't care what anyone thinks, even though that's my true opinion about not caring what anyone thinks. It's harder to do this when you actually care about the people and you care about their opinions and you love them, right? But you're going to have to sort of grow in understanding that they're not going to be on the same page, and that there's not going to be a whole lot that can be done in terms of how to explain it to them about like what you're feeling, or where you're feeling you're being led, because that is not how they are trained. To pursue your own satisfaction and your own happiness and your own fulfillment is a form of really beautiful rebellion that that a lot of people will not have the opportunity to experience. And so to others, you may look like you're rebelling, even though for you, you're just pursuing, right? And that's going to be that sort of bittersweet sort of like dance that you're going to be going through. Now, with that, I want to read a lesson that came up because what prompted the whole conversation was a card that came out earlier today, Bittersweet. And so I wanted to read it to you because I don't know, some of you may get something out of it. Where is it? Okay, so it starts with a window is open as a door gently closes. And then there's a legend that is associated with every card. And so for this card, it says, we celebrate in the midst of grief. The celebration has been planned for the birthday child. We cannot tell the child that our hearts are not joyous. If merriment rules in our home this day, so does sorrow that a child cannot see. God bless you, departed friend. God bless you, birthday child. Right. So in this picture here, they are sort of acknowledging and granting sort of grace and space to the grief that exists due to losing a loved one, whereas also celebrating the sort of the birthday, right? Celebrating another year that has gone around, celebrating for some people when they think of a birthday, they think of like success, or they think of another opportunity to do it differently or to do it right, or another chance at life. So they're doing both. They're acknowledging that there is room for both, which in this process that you're going to be going through when it comes to the sort of releasing of the old in order to let in what's meant for you, make sure that you're remembering to grant space for both, because it doesn't have to be one or the other. The thing is that we do live in like a world of duality, right? We've got this whole light and dark thing. Everything is one or the other, right? Up or down, left or right. And because of that, we have polarity as well. But there still needs to be some sort of balance point, right? So you may have left and right, but you also still have a center, right? You still have like light and dark, but there is still a neutral. And so as you're going through this and you are going through this sort of transition and it's a collective energy that's happening, remember to maintain the neutral point, to stand in the middle. And so what I mean by standing in the middle is learning that what's happening around you and happening in your life is simply something that's to be observed. Nothing is actually happening to you. Everything is happening through you. You are like a projector, and what you're experiencing is the reality that you're projecting, but it's happening through you. It is a product of your creation. And so as you are witnessing your creation, remember that you are the observer and that it's your job to stand in the middle, because the middle is what maintains the balance. So if you have situations that's going on in your life that you feel like is sitting on the light side of the spectrum, right? You still want to try to observe that from the middle. And it doesn't mean that you're not experiencing happiness or excitement or elation. It just means that you're observing it from the middle because it's happening through you. It's not happening to you. You are the projection, and life is the screen, and everything moving around you is what's playing out on the screen. And so that's the same thing for everything that we may consider to fall on the dark side, which for me is just things that I don't prefer. I prefer to use the term things I prefer and things I don't prefer. I don't really like to give words so much power, like light and dark. I think things like that is what provokes the ego, and it also is what instills fears. And if we are choosing a life that we are in power with, choosing a life in which everything happens is my choice, then that means that it's helpful to take the power away from words that society has allowed us to put there, right? It's just a collection of letters. And so when it comes to like making choices, start taking the power away from what you think each choice would mean, right? And realize that the power is always with you, right? But regardless, even if you're looking at things on the other side, and that could be the dark side, that could be grief or loss or change, or to be quite honest, a lot of people just don't like change. Some people just feel like it's uncomfortable, right? And maybe you just don't like that. Remember to be observing it instead of absorbing it. Like I like to say, observe, don't absorb. Don't absorb the experience. Now, you can feel it if it's something that you find productive, if it's something that you find enjoyable, like feel that, like feel the happiness, like go for it. But remember, you're just a witness to what's playing out. You're a witness to the simulation, and try to maintain a middle, stand in a middle. The rest of this says there's an inspiration part that says the passing of all things is inevitable. Whatever is happening may require release. This card should also represent unexpected news. And so I think that could actually be good for some of you. And I will be honest, it says that it could represent unexpected news. I feel like if anything is going to come through, it's not going to be unexpected. What's really happening is that you are in the process of aligning. And so it'll be something that you already wanted, that you've already sort of voiced, even if whether it wasn't out loud or maybe you said it to yourself, to your own heart or something like that. And because you've fallen into alignment, then it's something that is now coming through. I don't sense like heavy, unexpected things coming in for people. I sense people now aligning with what they originally wanted from the beginning. It just required them to shift shift some things around. They finally did that, which then opened up the space in order for that new thing to come in. But the new thing would have been something that you would have wanted, something that you would have articulated, and it just finally came to pass. There's a question in here that says parents often make difficult decisions not supported by their children. And then it says, can I see the strength in the choices of others? So with this, right, which I think is really beautiful, is as you are processing this sort of transition that you're going to be going through and understanding that other people are not going to be able to relate to everything that you're doing. And other people are not going to be able to relate to you saying, hey, I'm just doing what's best for me. They're just not going to get it. And a lot of that is because, well, they never really did what's best for them. And so it's going to be really hard for them to understand why you're doing what's best for you. The growth in that is that now that you are understanding what something like that is feeling like, that you will then be able to sort of extend that grace to other people. So when it comes to friends and family or new people that you meet along your journey, that if someone does something that maybe it's a choice that you wouldn't have made for yourself, right? Or maybe you would have preferred that they do something else, but they actually went a different way, that now you should be able to understand that perhaps they chose something that they felt was at their highest, that was for their greater potential, that was for their happiness, their fulfillment, their satisfaction, and that you will then also just be able to understand them better, right? And so if you are someone that experiences like frustration when you can't get people to do what you would like them to do, because there are some of you that are like that, then now you can extend some grace to those people. Let's see. Oh, there's a lot of stuff in here. Let me catch up. Okay, what are you guys saying? By the way, I am contemplating about doing these on a regular schedule. Don't hold me to it. Don't hold me to it. I said it's a contemplation. Okay. But if I do them on a regular schedule, I'm testing out Mondays for now. And if it needs to be a Tuesday, we'll test out Tuesday. I don't know. Aww. May with the light. Look. I'm really like high key a baby. Don't you make me cry on this internet. Don't you make me cry on this internet like that. Taker's Love 23 says, I am on the I want more step, which I love that. And I absolutely love that for you, that you're on that step. I think the I want more it's hard. I think it's something that sounds really, really awesome in theory. And when people hear it, they're like, yeah, of course I want that. But there's so much work that goes into allowing yourself to then go get it because it's not how society is configured. It's not all of these institutions that teaches us how to behave in a certain way, be it like the home or school or the government or the church, is actually taught the opposite way to take just enough to sacrifice. It's not taught from the perspective of like there's more than enough to go around and that you are an eternal being and that your expansion is natural and that therefore your desire to have more of something is also natural because that comes with being eternal and being ever expanding. And that what society has done a really good job of doing, and I think it's actually really effective, is convincing us of the opposite or teaching us of the opposite, so much so that society now then goes and polices each other. That society will like police you for wanting something else or for wanting something in addition to or getting something that you really wanted and then get bored with it because like that's natural, right? Like my dog, I can give her a ball and she'll play with it for a few days and then she's bored with it. She wants something else, right? That's like a natural thing that we experience. But society will find a way to shame you for that. Oh, you're not grateful for that? You should be happy for whatever it is that you have. There are people that have a lot less, right? And so I think for you to feel like you're in that I want more place, I think that's so awesome because like it's hard to get there and then it's a resonance that's hard to keep because there will be, especially when you get there in the beginning, there's always going to be these sort of circumstances that are going to test you and go, are you sure about that? Because life is really funny in that kind of way that whenever you change your mind, life will always say, are you sure you want to keep that? Like, are you sure you want to keep that? And so I think with that too, I've had some people recently actually like end up in the emails asking, well, how do I actually go about that? And I found myself recently saying a lot that so much of it is figuring out how to unravel the limiting beliefs that you hold, because we all have them, and then replacing it with something that is more expansive, because the limited belief is designed to hold you back. But a lot of the limiting beliefs that we have for a lot of people were not beliefs that we created ourselves. They were beliefs that, again, come from one of the major institutions, or there are beliefs that are coming from family, right? Like your mother or your grandfather or grandmother or your grandfather, like them teaching you things. And they got their beliefs from, again, one of the institutions. And the problem is that like the beliefs that your grandfather got from his institutions are different. You're talking about people that were living during the Great Depression. And so for them, when they say things like, well, enough is enough, or you have more than enough, that like there's a seriousness and almost like an accuracy to that statement because there just wasn't enough to go around, right? But it's also understanding that although they're trying to pass that down to you and they do have good intentions on doing so, that their situation and your situation are not the same thing, right? That like they are doing their best, but their best isn't your best. And just because it was the best that they could do with their information, the knowledge that they had access to, the resources they have access to, doesn't mean that that is the best that you can do with the information, the knowledge, and the resources that you have access to. And so when you're like out there looking for more, whether it's like, it can be material things like more money or a bigger house or, a fancier car, or it can be things like you want more love in your life, more friendships or whatever. A lot of times what's happening is that the advice that you're receiving from people, like especially when they're in the family unit, are advice from people that have never had that themselves. And so they're either giving you bad advice on how to go get it, or they are sort of throwing doubts in the plan that you have. And so you may be sitting there going, no, I really believe that this could be this thing for me and this could work out for me. And they're like, are you sure? Like, are you really sure about that? Because the truth is they don't think it could happen for them. And then we take that and then we internalize it thinking that it's directed towards us, really where it's something where they don't believe that it's possible for them. And to be quite honest with you, it may not be, because they may have been given a different set of resources when they came into the world. And it takes a lot of strength to become an adult and then have all those years pass and then acknowledge that, okay, those were the resources then, but these are the resources now. And that just because that was the narrative that I was working with then, I'm now going to write a new narrative in this beautiful blank paged book of mine of a new story with all of these new resources and ideas. And so, yeah, awesome. I love it when you want more. I'm someone that loves more, that wants more. I want more all the time, right? There's never a point in time where I'm like, oh, that's enough. Like even at like I can't get enough of anything. Like that's just not like I will blast the AC in the car because I can, not because I'm hot. And like my husband will be like, why are you doing that? Like you're running gas. And I'm like, well, then we're gonna get more gas. Like I don't really understand where the problem is. Like I'm paying for this car. I want all of the car. Anyway, it just comes out in a lot of ways. Um, self-love, financial stability, and authentic connections. Yeah, more of everything. Like I really do believe that it's you don't have to just sort of bounce around life until you die. And I think that many people are very unaware of this. And I don't think it's their fault. I just think it's the way, again, society is configured. But many people are really just sitting around waiting to die. And they just don't know that that's what they're doing. If there's ever a point in time when someone is like, I wish my life could be this, but there's no movement towards that, or there's maybe it's just like a lack of belief that it's possible. At that point, you have thrown away the thing that you know will bring you happiness and fulfillment. And at that point, what are you doing? You're just waiting around until you feel like it's your time to go, until your number's up. And that's really sad because people don't necessarily teach that there's another way that you can actually do things. And so, some people break out of it, some people don't. I do want to say, speaking of and I wrote it down. Look at that. Okay. I want to stay on track because now I'm talking. I I had an agenda. Okay, let's go back to the limited beliefs. Let's talk about unraveling them. So, a limited belief can be a big thing. It can be a thing that's like, I don't think anyone's going to ever love me, right? I don't think I'm worthy of this thing or this person or this opportunity. Or it can be like something like really small, whereas like maybe your favorite color is red, but then you say to yourself, but I don't look good in red. And so some of them, again, like you may be aware of that you picked them up. Some of them get handed down to you, they're given to you. And so you think it's how you grew up, how you were raised, how your family did things, when really what's happening is that you're perpetuating a limited belief. And so what you want to do when it comes into your awareness is start the process of unraveling it. You want it to sort of fall apart where it has no integrity, and the structure of the limited belief itself doesn't have the ability to hold itself together, because once it falls apart, then it's no longer a limited belief. It's something that you can simply observe was there, and now it's just simply not there because it unraveled and it fell apart. And the way you unravel it is by finding the untruths that exist inside the belief itself, right? And so, like, one of the major ones is like when people feel like they will never be loved or loved deeply, or that no one will ever understand them. Yet they have like a solid handful of friends, right? Or they're the type of person that's always throwing like a birthday party and like people show up, or they have a really loving partner, or they may be single, but they're the type of person that there's always like a suitor. There's always someone trying to give them attention, right? Or maybe in the workplace, they always get along with their coworkers, or they're always getting praised or something like that. What's happening is that, like, even though you're holding it, life will always do this thing where it says, are you sure? And so it's always going to be presenting you with an opportunity to go in the other direction. And this sort of mechanism that life has is neutral. So it's going to do it for good things and it'll do it for bad things, right? So if we have to assign something good or bad, it'll do it for both. And so if you are someone that's carrying a limited belief of like, no one will ever love me, yet like you can call up a friend and they'll meet you for brunch or something like that. The like examples like that is life being like, are you sure? Do you have kids and they like run up to you and they're like, mommy, I love you, right? The universe is then going, are you sure? And you're always going to be presented with these opportunities to change, right? And it's always going to show you things that are inconsistent. We have just done a really good job over time not being able to see the things that are inconsistent, right? It's part of, again, societal training, because when people start to wake up, people are always talking about how like that doesn't make sense and like that person was a hypocrite or whatever, because we get trained into thinking that things that are inconsistent is actually consistent. But anyway, and so life is going to present you with those opportunities. And every time you see it, every time you see that untruth in this statement that you're trying to convince yourself is true, that like invalidates your argument, right? It starts to unravel like a thread. And so what you want to do is find a thread. It doesn't matter where you get it from. It doesn't matter what the argument was that was the untruth that you caught, right? Once you catch it, that means it's now in your awareness. You're like, oh, wait, this isn't right, actually. Then you want to sort of hone in on it, focus in on it. And then at that moment, start recounting to yourself all the ways it's not true. And then what that's doing is like pulling on this thread. And you want to pull the thread until it's like, I don't know, like a pair of shorts that suddenly fell apart or something. Whatever you feel like you need to you need to imagine, right? Maybe it was like a blanket that was crocheted and you pulled on it and then the whole thing fell apart and now you just got yarn, you know? So whatever works for you, do it in the way that works for you, but you're pulling it. You want to unravel it. And how I like to view it is that when I'm finding the untruth and I'm double down it, I'm like, I want to stack it. I want to stack the untruth. Untruth on top of untruth on top of untruth. And I want to stack it on top of each other. In my mind, I picture like a spool of thread unraveling or spinning like really, really, really fast until it's just the cardboard that's left and there's no more string that's there. And then like once you get that feeling, whether or not it's something that you were able to visualize or maybe you just feel it, then that's how you know it's done, right? Now again, because life will always ask you, are you sure? Even if you fully unravel it, life is going to check to see whether or not that is the new direction that you actually do in fact want to go in. It's going to then present you with an opportunity that may potentially validate that once limiting belief that you have, right? And then it's going to be up to you to say, actually, no, I refuse. So again, working with the like, no one will ever sort of love me limited belief, because this is a very common one, like no one will ever get me or really love me deeply. Would be, I don't know, like okay, like you're a friend, you getting into a fight with a friend, right? And then now you're in a space where you're feeling unloved, right? Would be an example of life being like, are you sure you're ready to drop that belief or not? And that will be up to you to be like, okay, no, like this is still a limiting belief. It was just an argument. It was just a misunderstanding, but we're okay. And then after you confirm it, life will be like, okay. And what I said last week is that when you're undoing your limited beliefs, it's not always a one and done. It depends on what the belief is, how deep it runs for you, how long you've been holding it. And I like to compare it to like a really big cruise ship. I'm going to go with the icon of the seas, the one that they just revealed that they're saying is the biggest one, right? I need you to picture being the icon of the seas. You're cruising, and then suddenly you miss your turn off for the Bahamas. And that, whoa, shit moment where you're trying to turn the ship, right? Think about the length of time it'll take for the front of the boat to turn in the direction you want it to go versus the length of time it's going to take the back of the boat to get there. And then also consider how long is it going to take for the people that are on the back of the boat to realize that the boat is turning. And just because the people in the back of the boat realize it a little late, does it mean that the boat wasn't turning the whole time? Some people on the back of the boat may not realize it turned until the boat gets there. They may not even realize it's in the turning motion, but will they still arrive at their final destination, right? And so as you're doing the work and you're trying to unravel the beliefs, it may feel like that. You may have moments where you're like, oh my God, like, okay, I'm doing really great. This is awesome. And then you'll have moments where maybe you feel like you're backsliding, but you're not. And the reason why you're not is because it's sitting in your awareness, right? You're aware of it, which makes you 10 step ahead, because it's one thing to have a limited belief, but be aware of it. And then there's another to just be holding limited beliefs and not even know that you're the one that's limiting yourself to things. And so we want to make sure we're in the practice of constantly trying to unravel when we find things that do not feel like they are supportive or in alignment with the things that we are actually trying to do. And the way you figure that out is, does it feel good to you? Does it feel kind? Like, does it feel like it loves you, right? Does it feel like a thought that's going to help you? Or does it feel like something that's limiting you, restricting you, holding you back, telling you no, telling you that you can't do something, or that you won't get something, or that you won't experience something? If it's hitting you with a feeling of no's and won'ts, then that's how you know it's a limiting belief. Because I got that question too. Some people were asking, well, how do I know if what I'm holding is actually limited versus like being something that I do because that was how I grew up, right? How do I differentiate between like family habits and like something that's actually limiting me when I'm watching everyone around me do this thing and they've been doing it for the duration of their life? It's whether or not it feels good to you. And then also understand that two people can be holding the same beliefs, and for one person it's limiting and for the other person it's not. And that would be determined based off of just the individual, what they want for themselves, what's important to them, their sort of vibration, their frequency, where they're resonating at. And so it's possible to hold a similar belief as somebody else, but it doesn't necessarily impact them in the way that it impacts you, right? Like, remember, you are working with metaphysical rules. The majority of people that you're going to be coming in contact with, they're still working with the rules of society. A lot of people are not going to even know or be aware of the fact that they're holding belief systems that are actually very limiting. They're just not going to know. And so if you're like, but they're doing it, like, no, I don't care. You know, they start jumping off of bridges. Are you jumping too? Don't make me do that. Don't make me pull the mom on you. All right. All right. What we got in the chat? Okay. So the other thing that came up that I wanted to talk about too was this sort of idea of momentum, being able to spot momentum. And because once you spot it, it speeds up, right? So whenever you are trying to turn your cruise ship, right? Which is what a lot of you are actually doing. It's you realizing from your previous book that like that's not what's happening for me anymore. That doesn't work for me anymore. This is not what I want. And you are now in the process of creating a new story, a new narrative using your metaphysical rules, being self-empowered and enlightened and beautiful, right? This is like you making a hard steering wheel turn. I don't know. Do boats have steering wheels? I don't know if they actually have steering wheels, but whatever turns the boat, right? I don't know if it's a button. I don't know how those things work. But you going, I'm going to make this sharp left, right? Or I'm going to make this sharp right. And the length of time it takes to actually turn the entire boat around, right? That is, as it speeds up, as it's turning, it's a gathering of momentum, right? But when you first turn the boat, there isn't any. That's why it's like really, really slow. Even for those of you that are working with my 4-cylinder cars, right? And the light turns green and you're at the front of the line and you got a line of cars behind you and you hit the gas. And sometimes your little putt takes a minute to do what it needs to do to get to where it needs to go. It doesn't mean that it's not headed there, right? It's the gathering of momentum. It needs momentum. And so as you're making the shift, for a lot of you, we're talking like 180 degrees switch that you guys are doing. And so the energy around you is gathering momentum. This is also why a lot of you feel like you have been in sort of this waiting period or this transition period for a long time now. it's because it's gathering momentum. It's because you can feel it. A lot of you can feel that there's something on the other side, that something is supposed to happen, that something is supposed to change, but you're just kind of well, I don't know where it is. It's gathering momentum. And momentum gathers faster when you sort of help it out a little bit. And the way you help it out is by catching it. And so you catch it by acknowledging different synchronicities that are occurring that are in favor to the things that you actually want to have in life, whatever it is, right? Whatever you're like, this is what I want for the next phase of my life, right? Whatever that is. And so you want to acknowledge the synchronicities that are coming up. And so when people think of synchronicities, they go, okay, it's the angel number, right? It's 333s, it's the 555s, or maybe I heard a lyric in a song, but sometimes it's actual things that are tangible too, right? So for example, let's say you want a new car and then you somehow stumble across a toy car, right? Or maybe one of your kids or like you have a niece or a nephew and they hand you a car, look at my new toy, and they show you a car. Sometimes the synchronicities are tangible. It's about being able to spot them when they occur. And the reason why this is important is, again, remember, you are now working with metaphysical rules. So if you use the metaphysical laws will use you. Whereas if you want a car using societal rules, society is going to tell you that you got to do all this work and you're going to need all this money and you need a down payment. And it's going to make you do all of this work that the universe doesn't require or ask for. And then you're going to be doing all this work hoping that it sort of pans out. Whereas when you're working with like metaphysical laws, the metaphysical laws are going to show you that it's on its way to you. And it's going to constantly remind you that that is what it's trying to do. And so if you can see it when it sees you, then that will help the momentum. And so that is you identifying the synchronicity that is related to that thing. It is it seeing you by it revealing itself. And then it's you acknowledging that you see it too, right? That's the work that's being done between you and the universe. You want to make friends with your synchronicities because when that starts to happen, you get more of them. The universe goes, oh my God, this is great. I love working with them. And then it starts sending you more stuff, right? And the thing about it is that the stuff it sends you, there's like two purposes behind it that I've noticed, at least so far. Maybe one day I'll say it's three. We'll see. I'm still investigating, right? But one of the things that I've noticed that it does is, one, confirm that it's on its way, that it's heard you, that it's fully aware of what it is that you want. But two, the synchronicities will also have it almost like asks clarifying questions. So if we go back to the sort of car example that I've been using, let's say your nephew hands you a toy car, right? And you feel like that's a synchronicity for you. We're going to call them syncs. I call them syncs because it's a long word and I trip over it every time. So you have identified as a sync. And maybe originally you wanted a black car, but the toy car is now blue. And you look at it and you go, actually, this is quite nice. I quite like this blue. Maybe I'll get a car that's blue, right? You have acknowledged the sync. The sync sees that you see it, and you had an opportunity to refine whatever it is that you want. And the sync is like, I got it. We got you. And then the sync will go about its business. And then when it brings another sync, then you'll notice that the next sync will sort of line up with the one that helped you sort of refine what it was that you wanted, right? The more you do this, the more times you will notice that there is a sync that's just standing there right there for you. And they become a lot more obvious and a lot more in your face, and they show up a lot faster. And then you'll start by getting one a week, and then you'll end with like getting 5 a day. You'll wake up with the sync, you'll go to bed with the sync. It'll be it's constantly in your face. You can't get rid of it. And the speed of time that you notice increases is your gauge of the momentum, right? And so you will be able to physically observe the momentum increasing. Now, your job, because this is where people get tripped up, is to observe it. Be smart enough to know when to help it out a little bit, but then be even smarter to know when it's time to sit down. So what am I talking about there? Think about like a big boulder, like 3 times your size on a hill, and you're trying to push this thing down. think about how hard that is on the first go. You can run up to it, smack yourself on it. It's not going to move, right? There's this thing that happens where you may try to rock it a little bit, catch the wind right. So it just kind of starts rolling by itself. This is what we're doing when we're working with our syncs, right? You seeing it, it's seeing you, is you starting that rocking motion until it rolls by itself. What you don't need to do is then run in front of the boulder and then stop the rolling. And the reason why I say this is because what happens with some people is that then they get nervous. When things start moving, they get nervous because new things come up, new opportunities may present itself. And then there's this thing that happens for some people, not everybody, where they go, oh shit, well, I didn't think about this and I didn't think about that and I didn't know that I had to do this and this sounds really really hard, right? I see this a lot with people that want to start their own business where they're like, yeah, I really want this, and then they'll get that rocking motion going, and then they realize, oh my god, I have all this legal paperwork that need to be filed, and I need an accountant, and what's an LLC, and I don't know how to do these taxes, and then oh my god, stock inventory, that's really expensive, and I can't really afford that. I didn't really budget for that, and then they get overwhelmed, and then they start spending all of their energy running to catch up with the boulder, to stand in front of it, to stop it, as opposed to letting it finish rolling, letting the process play out. Because if you let the process of something play out, all of those details fix themselves and they solve themselves. All of the puzzle pieces fall into place, but you have to grant the space for the puzzle pieces to fall. If you're in the way, it's not going to do that. And people say, yeah, but I don't know what to do. I don't know how to do that. Okay, all is well and good, but no one said you had to know how to do it. You have to remember that you're working with metaphysical laws, right? We're not doing societal laws, right? Society is going to say that you need to have A through Z and blah, 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 blah. People that are working with the metaphysical understand that the majority of the work is you sitting back, and the majority of the work is you staying out of the way. Because what you understand, a lot of people don't understand, is that there are a lot of forces that are at play. A lot of you are getting help from the other side. And if you are in the way too much, then you can hinder or slow down the process. And so I like to say that if you reach a point where you feel like you don't know, this is a really good indicator that it's time for you to then go sit down. If you're like, I'm trying to bring this into my life and I'm trying so hard, but it's not working, that's an indicator that you need to go take like a nap. Like you need to go sit down, right? Because when you rest, what happens is that you stop resisting. When you feel like you're close, or you feel like you're on the edge of something, or you feel like you're on the precipice of something, it creates a very understandable dynamic where you drive harder because you're like, I gotta make this thing work. And then you burn out because you feel like it's not working, right? What's happening is that you are not taking the path of least resistance. Metaphysics will always take the path of least resistance. And so if you're trying to do something and it's not working, that means that is not the path of least resistance. It's not going to work out that way metaphysically. I don't care how many candles you want to light, however many affirmations you feel like you need to recite, okay, how many times you want to sit down in a quiet time in a space and then journal. If it is not the path of least resistance, metaphysics will not take your path. It just isn't going to do it. And so if you feel like you're working really hard and you're not getting anything out of it, then you need to go lay down. And you need to go lay down for a while. And you need to go take several naps and then maybe sleep in a little bit and then go get a snack. Because what that's going to do is put you back into a place energetically where you're out of resistance because you're calming down. People really underestimate like just how much they can be the one in their own way. And you allowing things to flow in this stage of life is going to be really important for you, because you literally just turned the Icon of the Seas cruise ship. Okay. You did a 180 flip. You're going to have to learn how to go with the flow, because the life that you're going to be living now is a life that you do not yet know how to live because you have not yet lived it before. You do not have a rule book. You do not have a play-by-play. And for many of you, most of you will not know people who are headed into this life. And so many people won't actually be able to help you. So like some people are going to be are going to say to themselves, like, I want a mentor or mentorship. And some of you are not going to be able to find it. You are the one that's traveling and sort of exploring this uncharted territory. And so you are the pioneer, which means you're going to be the one learning how a lot of these things work. So you're not going to have the answer for everything and you're not going to have it right away. And so you having an ability to go with the flow is going to be so crucial when it comes to just your overall mental health. Now, it's not going to stop or prevent the things that are meant for you from happening. It's just going to make the journey getting there a lot easier and a lot calmer, because so much of life is just about the unfolding of it. We have to remember that prior to in our incarnation, we chose everything that we wanted to experience. It already has a plan. It already has a path. It already has a timeline. So much of this was already decided. What's happening is that we are in the process of catching up to our original intention that was set from the higher self prior to incarnation. And so a lot of these decisions we don't actually have to make, right? So we're trying to make decisions twice, not really recognizing that our higher self already worked it out prior to incarnation, for the pure reason of why wouldn't we? Like, why would you incarnate without a plan? Like, who does that? Like, you would have a plan, right? And so it's already been planned out. Your job is to let the plan unfold and not get in the plan's way. Your job is to be like, I'm going to take a step back. Your job is to go have several seats. If you feel like you've worked really hard and it's not coming to pass, that means you are not taking the path of least resistance, because metaphysics will always follow the path of least resistance, and you are currently in the way. Okay? Go lay down, go nap. And while your mind is clear, that is going to be when you get those new hits of inspiration, when suddenly you know how to solve a problem because it'll download in your sleep or something like that. That'll be when you are most open to receive a quick piece of advice from a stranger that you wouldn't have thought to ask, right? Because it's going to put you in a mode of receptivity. It's going to put you in a receptive mode. And then you're then going to be able to then do things with it. Whereas if you are in a space now, if you feel like you're resisting a lot because you're trying to push, then you're not in that mode that you need to be in order to get to wherever it is that you're going, because you've reached a point where you can't see or hear anymore. It doesn't mean that you do not take people's thoughts or ideas into consideration. It just means that you cannot see and you cannot hear. This is why intuitives and psychics and mediums and readers have to take a minute prior to them working, where they have to go sit down and they need to center themselves and it needs to be quiet, and they may need to do a 5-minute meditation, and because they can't hear and they can't see. You can't see or hear anything if you're not calm, if you're not centered, if you're not grounded, right? If you are in a place of resistance. Awesome. Bonzo, that's awesome. Hello, Cosmo. Wait, what contract? I still want to see proof of that contract. What contract? Wait. Oh, your contract. Well, I can't help you with that. You may have to do some meditation. You may have to do some meditation for that. And figure out what that contract is. So I am about to wrap up because it's been almost an hour. But where I want to leave you guys, what I want to leave you with is just remember, right, that everything is happening and that it is moving, right? There is no more you waiting to be ready. There was a lot of like waiting to be ready, or like, but then getting ready and then going, do I need to be more ready? Like, for example, like sometimes people will meditate and then they'll meditate long enough to get there, and then they'll then like double the meditation length to stay there, right? Whereas my thing is like, if you meditate for 20 minutes and it takes you 19 minutes to get there, then great, you're there. Like, stop. You don't have to then sit there for an additional 19 minutes in order to confirm that you're staying there. And so there's like this feeling of that, right? Of people getting ready, but then wanting to confirm that they are in fact ready, right? And yeah, the answer to that question is yes. But because this is now a different version of you, you have changed, you have evolved, you have shifted. The way you do things now, as you're writing this new beautiful book in this volume of you, right, is that you are the one that chooses what happens. If you don't have to wait for like an outside force, like for like a random person, for example, to give you permission to do things, that you can write it the exact way you would actually want it to look. And so if you're trying to figure out how to do something, and this can be related to literally anything, and you're trying to figure out that first step, just follow your imagination because that is what it's for. Your imagination serves as a template. So if one of you went, one day I'd like to have my own store, but I don't know what to do. What you would do is create it the way you see it in your imagination. That's where you start, right? Whatever colors you see, that is what you duplicate, right? If there's a room, you duplicate the size of it, right? Your imagination is the template. That is what it's there to do. And so if you can see it, if you can feel it, if you can perceive it, just follow your imagination. You following your imagination is a really sort of logical way to explain also following your heart because that is the template. And understand that you don't have to need permission from people to do that. And understand that the people around you won't understand you for doing that because that is not what society teaches us to do. So they may look at you crazy, but that's okay. And you may look at them crazy, but that's okay. Because in this era of life, what we're doing is pursuing our own satisfaction, our own happiness, and our own fulfillment. And what we are not doing is listening to people that refuse to follow that for themselves, right? This is a new book being written by a metaphysical being, i.e., you, and you are going to write it in the way that you see fit for yourself because that is the era that we are now moving in. If y'all were in front of me, I would have ended it with a can I get an amen? Actually, I could still end it like that. Can I get an amen? Say it to yourself. I don't know. In my mind, I'm hearing it, you know? You're right. We are not here to be understood by others. We're here to understand ourselves, which is, touche, right? We're here to get ourselves. We're not here to get anybody else, and we're not going to. And it's a futile effort because it's really hard to understand someone that doesn't understand themselves. They don't have the ability to explain it to you. So it's impossible. You don't actually have an ability to do that, but you do have an ability to follow your truth and what matters to you and what's important to you. Yes, on the amens. Yes. Has tarot ever given you wrong answers? I don't think I would say that I feel like I've gotten a wrong answer from tarot. What I do think has happened many times is that I have misinterpreted something. And I could have misinterpreted based on my literal misinterpretation of the card. Like I actually made a mistake. What I find though, when I misinterpret anything tarot related, it's because I allowed my prejudgment to seep into the reading. And so I could be reading for somebody and then maybe I prejudge them on something or I prejudge their situation. And like an easy way could be I'm trying to give an example of like that happens. Like, let's say someone comes to you, they want to know about a relationship, or you want to know about your own relationship, right? But then the previous relationship that you had didn't work out. Someone comes to you, they ask you a question, and their story sounds like your story. Sometimes what happens is that you'll then go into a quick prejudgment, not even realizing that you did it, whereas you fill in the blank with the information that you already have. And so you may go, well, of course that's not going to work out because I saw this storyline before and it didn't work out. So it's not going to work out here. And it happens so fast. And so you can sort of prejudge a situation or prejudge a reading, which will then cause you to get the interpretations wrong or cause you to be wrong. I hate to say that like tarot is ever wrong because it's just a deck of cards. It's paper and it's ink and it's cardstock. Tarot has no power in and of itself. The power lies in the reader. And so if it's wrong, it's the reader that's wrong. It's not the cards themselves, unfortunately, babe. So it's you. It's not them, it's you, honey. It's you. Okay? But it's common. So don't as people are learning, it happens. And then even people that are professional readers, it still takes an immense amount of work to not do that because you're human, right? Like it's hard. Like it's a really hard thing to stay neutral. And if you're working with people, when I tell you I have gotten questions, okay, it's almost sometimes like you're like an unofficial therapist. The stories that come out sometimes, like you couldn't make them up. And so it's really hard sometimes to make sure that you're trying or that you're remaining like unbiased, but sometimes it just sort of creeps on in and it just gets you before you actually notice that it got you. So yeah, it is what it is. Which, by the way, because now we're just kikiing, we're chatting until I get sick of myself and I want to go lay down because it is my bedtime. I am actually on the next phase of the book publishing process. So for those of you that don't know, I am actually like working on publishing like a book about tarot, right? I don't want to say the name because right now it's still the working name. So like literally it's like a working name until you get all the way through the design process and then people go, you want to keep it, right? So I don't have the title yet because all of it's still working titles and like working names. And it changes a lot based off of how the book is actually written. So for example, this book had about 8 different titles until where it's at now, which is what I think it's going to settle on. But like, I don't want to like say it and like, I don't settle on it. Anyway, so we're in the next phase of that process, which is a little bit difficult. It's the endorsement phase. So for like those of you that don't know, do I have a book here? I want to show you what this is. There's no endorsements here. And I would just clean up prior to doing this. Okay, anyway, is this one? No. Is this one? No. So they have, okay, so when you turn a book over on the back, it'll say something like, this is the best book ever from editor-in-chief at whatever magazine, or awesome read by blah, 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 blah. Like those quotes on the back of the book are called endorsements. And in order to get them, you have to ask. It's like a book reference, right? So you like ask people to like do it for you, to endorse the book for you. And here's my challenge. I don't actually know anyone of like significance in the tarot community. And so I'm like compiling a list, but they're all going to be like blind reaching out. And we're just going to kind of see how that goes because I don't know. And my editor was like, yeah, like you should know some of them. And I was like, bro. Like, I wish I could say that, like, oh, that's so sweet. Oh, Cosmo Fire, that's so sweet. Oh, thank you. The modern thank you. Thank you. Yeah, like I don't know anyone in the tarot community of like, it's literally just been myself in a corner of the internet being me. And like, so I don't have like I have friends, like I have like psychic friends and stuff, but like people who are like publishing and like author friends and like deck creator friends and like, or just like acquaintances, like I don't have those. I've never met these people. I don't know these people. Like this is a world that I'm getting into for the first time. And so they were like, yeah, can you send us a list so we can reach out to them to get some endorsements for this book? I was like, about that. So I don't know what I'm doing. So that's where we are. And it's due this week. And so my game plan is to approach it from just reach out to people that have impacted my tarot journey, or like people that have helped me understand, or like maybe creators of decks that I actually like, and then just cross my fingers and like hope for the best because I don't know what's going to happen there. Yeah, that's what I was thinking, Cosmo. I was thinking that too. There was also, and there was a part of me that was thinking too, like, and look, the publisher may say something different, but a part of me was like, do I need them though? Like, I get that, like, it's a thing, but like, I have always been like a lone soldier. I've always just gone at it by myself, and I've always been fine. It's always been it's been a technique that's always worked for me. So I've always been like, we need to, but I guess it's a publishing thing. I don't know, but you know, I've seen many successful tarot books that don't have any endorsements. And actually, some of the current bestsellers on Amazon do not have any endorsements. So, I don't think it'll be a problem, but it's a thing. It's a thing. We'll see. Maybe you can. The Monarch, maybe you can. I don't know. Like, to be quite honest, the whole publishing thing is so new to me that like this is my figuring it out of like how things work. And my sort of journey was not the conventional, traditional journey. Like a lot of people will have like an agent, and a lot of people will have like a completed finished manuscript. And the agent is the one doing the talks between like the client and the publisher, or the author and the publisher, and like shop and getting the deals and stuff like that. Whereas for me, it was very different. I was like, I don't know, napping. And I just happened to wake up and check my email. And then I had an email from like a publishing company going, hey, you want to write something? And I was like, you're joking, you're spam, and then I ignored it. I ignored it there was like 3 attempts for them to reach out. I think I ignored all of them. And then eventually I was like, ugh, because I thought it was spam. I thought they were like trying to like steal information, because why would you want to talk to me about a book? Like, that's weird to me. And then like it took a long time for me to even get it up because I was ignoring them. I thought they weren't real, which is not how I think a lot of this works, like in the publishing world and in the writing world. And then the book was greenlit prior to me having anything written down. There was no manuscript. I had a paragraph of a pitch of an idea, and they just wanted to make sure that my idea aligned with their idea, but then they wouldn't tell me what it was because they felt like it would ruin like author creativity if they like gave me an idea. But I'm pretty sure what it was that they hoped that I wanted to write a book on tarot. And then I said I would write a book on tarot, and they were like, yes, we're in alignment. But like the whole thing of getting there was weird. And so after getting there, I didn't know anything. Like, I had to do a lot of research on like what an author contract even looks like. Like, how much money are you supposed to get? Which, by the way, authors make no money. Like, they just don't make a whole lot of money. And I understand now, like, why people are like, while you'll see writers and they're like, I'm poor, because like the money is not in the writing. Unless you are like Michelle Obama, you are a former first lady, and you are now turned author. Like, the money is not, it's just not what it is. The people write because they love it, and it's an art, and they enjoy leaving something in the world and expressing themselves in that way. But when I tell you, you do not write for money. You do not write for money. That's not what I think. If it comes to you, that's why all these like big time authors were like, I was surprised, because you would genuinely be surprised. You're right. I can self-publish. But like, I wouldn't have even known, to be quite honest, how to do that. Now I would know how to do it now because of the whole process. But like prior to that, I don't think I would have known how to do it. And I also don't think I would have written it. I think there is like having a publisher, depending on the publisher, is so much help that like if you don't know what you're doing, like the help is valuable, right? It's almost like the best way to describe it is when people like a musician, they get a label. Like these days, we all know that like the label owns everything, and the label like they got the masters and they're the ones making all the money. Like we know that, but like when you are a beginner, like, and you're trying to break into the industry, there is this sort of pro con thing that a lot of musicians do where they start weighing out what they know they're giving up versus what they're actually originally trying to achieve. And it's the same thing, right? So you can self publish, but the backing and like the support and all of the marketplaces that you're put into does not happen when you self publish. That's why people need to raise a lot of money, and there's all these Kickstarter campaigns, because when you're with the publisher, they're the ones doing the distribution, they're the ones doing the selling, they're the ones contacting where the places that may buy the books to put them in the bookstores, they're the ones with the relationships that'll put it in different countries. It's so if you self-publish, right, and I put it on Amazon, for example, like that, like that's it may just go on US Amazon, and then there's no work on the back end. There's a lot of work that goes into, like, for example, like what it ranks on Amazon, because a lot of people don't know this, but Amazon has an algorithm. And yeah, and like I didn't know, right? Like there's actually like a lot of work that goes into that, and there's a lot of, and there are teams of like people that are like crunching numbers, trying to like crack the code of like, which is part of the reason, by the way, why I don't know what it's going to be titled, because like titling sometimes may take into account like an SEO. So if you type it into an Amazon, you can find it, versus titling it something that you can't find. And so anyway, there's like science, there's like book science that I am not, I don't have an ability to, like, it's just not my skill set. I can do a lot of things. And like when I tell you that, yeah, it was, so I'm fortunate enough to end up with a publisher that takes care of that, because it's things I just would have never dreamt of it at all. I just wouldn't have known. I wouldn't have known. I would have been like, wait, what? Like, what do you mean? Like, how many phases? I didn't even know what like copy editing was. I didn't even know that like editing has like phases. Like, what is that? Like, you would have told me to write it. I would have threw it in a Word doc, and then I would have used Word to do like a grammar check on it, and then I would be like, it's ready. Like, I would have never known the amount of steps that go into something like that. It's remarkable. So, but I'm excited about it. I'm super excited about it, and I'm super excited to finally be like, one day, look, and then like holding it up. Is your publisher into tarot? This would be their first. Is this? No, this would be their, from my understanding. And this is, and it's very, I have like a cursory level understanding of like the business of publishing. So this could not, this may not be fully correct. But my understanding is that like, this is like their first real work that is tarot. There is a tarot deck that was published through them a few years ago. And this publisher does a lot of like self-help, like spirituality, self-help. So they have a lot of that content. But from what I understand, or what I can gather from like the information that's available to me, in terms of like hard tarot, like this is what it is. This is the first one, I think. So, and so like hopefully, it does good, because if it does, then that opens up a window of opportunity to do more and to add more to that space, which is really cool, because I actually think, from what I know so far, unless something comes out on Amazon tomorrow that I was unaware is on its way out, I will be the first Black author that like writes on tarot. Now there are a lot of, at least recently, like Black tarot deck creators, but like author, like someone that like here's how you read this thing. I'm the first one that I'm aware of. And if I'm wrong on that, then that means that whoever did it, it just didn't go to like print in that kind of scale. So it's exciting. It's an exciting thing, you know? Anyway, I am, because it's been over an hour now and my mouth is getting dry. I'm gonna wrap up, guys. And we'll see how I feel. But I may show up here again on Monday. Okay? Don't hold me to it. Will you lightly? Hold me lightly. I would say that where we are today, we're at a greater than 50% chance. Okay. We're not quite yet at 100%, but I'm thinking about adding this into like the routine, you know? So if it's something that you guys like and I like, and we have an alignment there, then yeah, I'll do it. I'll do it. I'll do it. Yeah. So, alrighty, guys. I'm going to head out. Lovely seeing you. Love you all. Bye.